Hello, welcome back to the videos. This is video number 4 in our transition licks and ideas series. And the previous video we looked at moving from the G to the C as our example, transition ideas to help us move from G to C. And you can use these in your backup. You can use them as transition ideas in parts of your solo. You can improvise with them. There's a lot of different uses for them. But they're basically designed to get you from point A to point B in a cool, more musical way than just dropping from one chord to another. Kind of just a stark contrast between G and C. This kind of smooths the areas between the two, changes out, and it pulls you along. Transition licks have tones in them that tend to pull you to the next chord anyway, so they're useful. So let's look at another common transition point in simple songs. We'll use key of G for the example again. Getting from the C to the D chord, or from the 4 to the 5. So let's zoom in on the fingerboard. I'll give you a good shot here. And since the banjo's tuned to G, and we have two open D strings, D on the 4th, D on the bottom, both of those strings become pretty useful for transitioning between C and D, because obviously using a D string relates to a D chord. So you'll see a lot of banjo players use the 1st and 4th string a lot when they're getting from, let's say, the 4 to the 5 chord. So I'm going to pretend we're just rolling along, maybe rolling some simple backup over the chord changes. That chromatic walk up from 2, 3 to 4 is a very commonly heard way in Scruggs style to get from, say, the C to the D. But I like to add a couple of notes to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. I'll try to sneak in this: open 3rd, open 4th, and sometimes, depending on the time signature, you could call those 16ths. You could call them 8ths. You know, it just depends on if you're playing in cut time or common time. But adding those two notes helps me get in sync and adds a little pizzazz to the transition. So let me try adding 3, 4, and then doing the walk up, which will lead me into the D chord. And I'm using all 3 fingers for the chromatic walk up. You don't have to do that. You could use 1 finger or 2, but I've always found for me that 3 works better. But as they say, your mileage may vary, so use whatever fingers work best for you. Another way that you can use the 4th string effectively to get from C to D is to kind of jump to this note without doing the full chromatic walk up. What I'm going to do is slide from 3 to 4. I'm not going to do open 4, 2, 3, 4 like we did in the previous transition idea. I'm just going to slide, play the open 3rd with my index, and then the 3rd string. The 3rd string at 2 is an A note, which is one of the notes out of my normal D chord. So once I have that A note down, I have to decide, do I want to play a partial D? You know, there's a lot of different ways you can play partials of D, but I'm using the A note as a way to get from C to D, so I want to make sure I include the A note in my pattern, because if I don't, then I'm just basically wasting that note. So let me try something. Pretty simple, but pretty effective too, and it doesn't have the walk-up sound, but it has a transition feel, and you can hear a little tension in there. It wants to be resolved to that A note. You can also spice up this simple idea by introducing a roll pattern. What if we were to roll 4, 3, 1 with the first note being a slide? 4, 3, 1. Now 4 open, and then go to that A note. What would that sound like as a jazzed up version? Let's try that as a transition. Now again, I'm not going to play too much with the D because the D is up to you. Once you get to the 5 chord of the D, you got to decide, am I playing a fill-in lick? Am I rolling over a chord? Am I playing a partial, the full? Is this part of a solo? Is it backup? You know, all these different situations. So let's just concentrate on the lick and not what comes after it. So there's 3 pretty useful and common ideas that you'll hear using the 4th string and the 3rd string as your transition area. But now, since the banjo is tuned with 2 D notes an octave apart, anything you do on the 4th or the 1st can be done on the other string. So what could we do on the 1st string that mimics what we just did on the 4th? In this case, I'm going to play the 1st string open out of my C because that's my D note. And then I want to skip off of the 5th open. And you can interchange 5th and the 1st, but that kind of gives you the same effect as what I did with the 3rd and 4th, where I did the little skip over. So again, you don't have to use the 5th string, but I think it helps me get in sync with the transition lick I'm trying to play. Now, once you get to the 4th fret of the 1st string, that's also an F sharp note, which is a note in your chord, but you would have to decide how to use that note in combination with nearby strings. Are you going to play the partial D like the Sally Gooden? Are you going to play this partial with the bottom 3? Are you going to use it in a full shape to play a lick or a roll? Again, you have to think ahead there, but let's just concentrate on the notes that get you there. I've also seen pretty cool transitions. Earl does this on songs like Petticoat Junction. Actually drag the C up, the whole partial of C, which sounds weird, the whole partial. Let's don't say that. The partial, whole and partial, oxymorons there. Sorry about that, but we'll just use we'll call it the partial C. And we can drag that up, C, C sharp, D. I'm still going to use the open 1st string. It's kind of a hinge point. Then I'm going to pinch, 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 or roll. Let me try to string together what we have already and see how this works to help me navigate between the 4 and the 5. Other transition licks that you'll encounter And stroke style will usually be kind of variations of that. A position that I like to use a lot, which has a little bit of a blues sound, is to use a D7 position. That's usually one of the first chords people learn on the banjo. They'll learn a C position, and they'll learn this little simple D7 chord. And again, you're taking advantage of the fourth and the first string being tuned to D already. So if you hold the second string, first fret, third string, second fret, which I'm sure everybody watching this knows that is D7, you can actually use that as a hinge point, I like to call it, as a transition area to get you over to a regular D. And C and D7 are only, basically 1 or 2 notes apart on the fingerboard. So let me try to use something of the D7 position to help me get to D. What I'm doing there is hammering the first and second string together, and then I'm hammering the second fret of the first string, I should clarify that, but pinching both strings at the same time. That's better. Now I'm going to pinch those 2 notes again while this is fretted, then open, and then I'm going to that A note again. I could add this note to the pinch, or I could leave the first open. But the main focus of the transition lick here is to get from this D7 position and use it as kind of an area that kind of morphs between C and D7. I don't know a proper term for that, but since D7 and C are so close together, that's a pretty cool place to do transition licks. But you're kind of floating in between the 2 positions, I guess you might say. And you could go to D7 at the end instead of down here. Here's a little more advanced idea using the D7. What I'm going to do here is do a pull off, first fret, second string. I'll get my brain right here eventually. Push off or pull off. I usually do a pull off there. Now I'm going to go down to the third string at 2, which is that A note. So I'm kind of preempting that A. I'm getting to the A before I actually need it in the D chord. And that second string pull off leads me to the third string at 2, and that's the first note of a 3-2-1 roll pattern. And 2 and 1 are open. Go to this D, or I could actually stay in D7. Let me try that. Quick, and usually when you get some of these transition licks up to speed, they're going to be a little tougher to get at higher tempos. But that's a pretty cool lick that I like to use. But just remember, it will get you to the D7, which is right next to the C, or it could help you get right to that D position. But try those and see what you can do with them. Hopefully they'll help you get between these positions. Maybe if you can't remember all of them, you can just use a few. And they may lead you to some ideas of your own that you like better, so you can use them kind of as the building block tones for whatever transition licks you want to make up. And there are more exotic ways to move between the 4 and the 5, but it would involve more single string style without any rolls at all, maybe melodic style, but we could save that for another time. But the next video we will look at moving from the 5 chord over to the 1, which is another common change. So the last chord in the song leading back to the root chord again. So be on the lookout for that, and I appreciate you watching. Have a good day.